Hello, I just wanted to give you guys a quick announcement. So my friend Xiying, who I made the crochet tutorial with last year, has been doing a lot of very cool things in the last year. And one of the things she has done is she started her own YouTube channel where she started making crochet tutorials for her designs. So last year we taught you guys how to make this surface, which is the cipher surface of the trefoil knot. And I've been getting a lot of really positive feedback about that video, and I'm really glad you all have been enjoying it. So I wanted to just point you to her channel where she's going to be posting, or has posted, more tutorials for projects which are the next level up. So she's made a tutorial about this shape, which is a cipher surface for the Borromean rings. And she's also posted a tutorial about this shape, which is a cipher surface for something called the 4-3 alternating knot. I'll talk a little bit more about the math behind these knots at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But I just wanted to let you all know where you can find those tutorial videos. I will post a link to her channel in this video, somewhere around the screen, and also definitely in the description. So make sure you check out those crochet tutorial videos if you want to learn how to make more awesome shapes. I also wanted to let you know that both Xiying and I are going to be at the Bridges Conference this summer, which is happening at the beginning of August in Richmond, Virginia. If you also happen to be going to this conference, I would love to see you there. I would love to meet you and hear about your crochet adventures and other math adventures too. So Xiying is going to be running a workshop at the conference where she's teaching everyone how to make this shape, which is one of the reasons she made a tutorial video for it. So you can catch me there. I'm going to be there helping her out with that workshop, and you can learn how to make this, which is going to be a great time. I also have a dance film in the short film festival, and so you can catch me at the film festival on the Sunday of that conference. So you won't find more crochet tutorials on my channel for the time being, but I do want to talk more about the math behind these crochet cipher surfaces and just more about other kinds of math in general. So I have some good math videos planned for you all this summer and into the next year. So that being said, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the process for how you can design your own crochet patterns in the style of Xiying's work. So you might remember that for the trefoil knot, we started with a chain graph, and all of the other crochet models start in the same way. So there's a question, which is, if I have a given knot, how can I find the chain graph that will produce that knot as a boundary? And on the flip side, if I have a given graph and I do a process with twisting all the edges, which knot do I end up getting? So I wanted to talk you through a little bit of my thinking behind those two questions. So let's start with our favorite example, the trefoil knot. So you might see that this knot diagram divides the plane into different faces. So we have the outside board, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 faces, which are bounded. What I'm going to do is just color the faces alternately so that no two faces which share an edge are the same color. And now I can use this coloring to devise two different graphs. So for the first graph, I'm going to put a vertex on each yellow face. And then I'm going to connect the faces with an edge if there's a crossing in between the two faces. So we just get the 3 cycle. And one thing we're going to want to do is keep track of which direction the twist is on each edge. It just so happens that the trefoil is an alternating knot, so each crossing has the same orientation. But I'm going to write that in just so we keep track of it. So these crossings are all the same orientation because if I take this guy and I can rotate it to be in each of the other crossings, we get the same crossing. If you stare at it for a little bit, you'll see what I mean. On the other hand, we have the blue graph, which looks like this. One vertex for the inner face, and then one vertex for the outer face. And then the inner and outer are connected with 3 crossings, and they again have all the same orientation. So these 2 different graphs both encode surfaces that you could crochet in order to have the trefoil knot as a boundary. This surface is of course the one that we made in the last video. You have 2 vertices, 3 edges, and they're all twisted in the same direction. This surface is the 3-twisted Mobius loop, which is non-orientable. This one is orientable. So, and these 2 graphs are duals of each other. And for the graph dual, I just put a vertex on each face that the graph divides the plane into, and then I connect the vertices with an edge if the 2 faces share an edge. So because these 2 faces share 3 edges, there's 3 edges in between the corresponding vertices in the dual graph. Okay, so that's the trefoil knot example. You guys are already familiar with that. Let's look at another example, which is the Borromean rings. So this is no longer a knot, but a link of 3 separate link components. Each of them is unknotted, but together they are linked together so that you can't separate them in space. However, if you look at any 2 links, they are not linked with each other. Maybe I should have drawn this in 3 different colors. Let me add some color here. So now we see we have a red, blue, and yellow link. And if we look at the red and the blue links, then both times that they cross, the blue goes over the red, so you can separate those 2 links. However, altogether, these 3 links cannot be separated. This is called the Borromean rings. Now, let's color the faces of the plane divided by the link diagram that we have here in alternating colors like we did before. So this is my first coloring, and now I'm going to draw the corresponding graph. So I have 4 vertices, 1, 2, 3, 4, and each face shares a crossing with every other face, so that means that all the vertices are connected to each other vertex. There we go. And what is this? This is exactly K4, the graph K4, the complete graph in 4 vertices, which is also the edge graph of the tetrahedron. And you might notice that in the Borromean rings we also have an alternating knot, so all of the edges have the same twist. I'm just not going to write the twist in this graph. So that means that in order to make the Borromean rings, you just have to start with the edge graph of the tetrahedron and twist all of the edges, and the boundary will be the Borromean rings. On the other hand, we could have shaped the faces in the alternate way. I'm going to reuse the yellow color, you have to forgive me. I only brought 3 colors of chalk. And this graph again has 4 vertices, and if we draw it out, we see that they're actually connected in the same way, and we get another K4 graph. And that's because the dual of the tetrahedron is, of course, also the tetrahedron. So if you want to make the Borromean rings, you got to start with the tetrahedron. That's what we've learned.
Now we want to look at an algorithm in the opposite direction. Something that starts with a graph and gives you a link.
So here's my random graph. Now I want to know what happens if I take this graph and I turn all of the edges into crochet chains, and then I twist all of the edges. What knot or link do I get? Well, to start, I'm going to build another graph on top of this one by putting a vertex at each of the edges. So I'm going to connect two vertices in this other graph I'm building if the corresponding edges are in a face together. So these two are connected, these two are connected, these two are connected, these two. This edge is connected to itself because it kind of bounds a face with itself. You know, that's being a little hand wavy here. But it does make sense maybe. Yeah. So what happens is that in these cycles, two vertices are connected by two edges because these edges are part of a face together twice. And because of this, the way that this algorithm works, every vertex is going to be 4-valent. It's going to have degree 4 in this new graph I've constructed. And that means that it does have an Euler path. So I'm going to trace around the graph with an Euler path. My rule is I'm always going to go straight across. So every vertex has degree 4. It looks like this at the vertex. And my rule is that I'm always going to go straight across, instead of turning at all. So I'm going to follow that rule, trace along my graph. And I'm going to additionally require that I alternate the crossings.
I realized while editing that this is not really an Euler path or cycle, since we might end up with 2 or more link components, like in this example. But it maybe has a similar flavor to an Euler path since we still will only cross each edge once.
So I've just completed one link component here. Let me do another one. I'll use red this time. And there's my completed link. Let me draw this again off to the side so that you can see it better. There we go. And of course, we can do some knot isotopy on this link, and we see that I guess it's a trefoil linked with an unknot in this four strand-ish weaving way. I'll leave it to you to describe that knot for yourself. This is just a completely random graph. I did this for the first time just now. So that's my point, is that you can take any graph you like, complete this process, this algorithm on it, and figure out what knot you'd get if you crochet it with alternating crossings. Yeah, so that's a little fun explanation of the math behind these crochet ciphered surfaces. I might do a more in-depth video on it at a later time. But for now, go check out Shi Ying's channel, do some fun crochet projects, and as always, keep exploring.
If you want to know some more details about how these algorithms are defined, I wrote a little article about it, which is posted to the A periodical. I'll put a link in the description of this video for that.